Hi, my name is Rebecca Allen. It is approximately 5:18, June 30th. I'm on my fourth video, and today we're going to be talking about the positive and negative about relationships in the workplace and friendships in the workplace. We're also going to be talking about how teamwork has worked for me and not worked for me, and as well as leadership and how millennials of this generation um, view the concept of a servant leadership. So let's get started. The first question that I'm going to talk about is, what are the positive aspects of the workplace friendships? So the positive aspects is that friendships in the workplace are unique in that they are voluntary and people can choose if they want a relationship outside of work. There are many people that I work with. I mean, obviously I work at home, but before I worked at home, I chose not to associate with myself privately because I felt I didn't work well with them. So I didn't obviously hang out with them outside of work, didn't go to lunch with them, but there were people that I did. Individuals are able to share workplace experiences and then help one another make sense of them. Obviously, when you work together, you experience the same things day in and day out. Majority of the year, if you're pretty much with the people that you work with, so it can be hard. And having those people go through the same thing that you are, they can also be a support system in times of needs. The connection is greater than with those people, and you feel like they're loyal to you because you also you can confide them privately as well as with work as well. So coworkers can also influence your decisions with work. If you have something that you need to get done and you need their advice, they can be there. Coworkers understand what really is going on at work, and people on the outside don't really fully understand. Like your family and your friends, you may talk to them about certain things, but they aren't there daily. So the negatives, support can be misused. For example, commodity, which is owed support at for someone in the future. So if you say something then or do something, then that person maybe feel like, oh, well, I did this for you, so you need to do this for me. Information retrieval. Giving someone information because that person made them feel like it is necessary. Some people can be very conniving and find out information or about what you're doing with work. I mean, work has many aspects of it within it that if somebody knows what they're trying to get from you, they can definitely get from you if you feel like they're loyal to you. Codependency. A coworker becomes dependent on the friendship to the extent that he or she is no longer able to act independently. I've seen this before within my workplace that somebody always has to be with that same person because they feel like if they're not, then that person's maybe talking behind their back or that they're not being a loyal person to that person. So it can get very sticky in those situations. They can also use your private business or private things that you're doing within your work against you if they get mad at you, which can cause turmoil within the workplace, which I think drama within the workplace can affect other people as well, not just the two people that are involved. I've seen and heard drama about somebody else and be like, whoa, but it's some people it affects it differently. So obviously that can cause turmoil in the workplace. So number 2, what are the positive aspects of workplace romance? Well, workplace romance is defined as consensual relationship between two members of the organization that entails mutual sexual attraction. So the positive, ideal environment for romances begin with coworkers tend to have similar educational background, interests, and abilities. So obviously you're working together, you're all kind of hopefully going for the same goal. and you have that person that you are also attracted to that can be there to support you in times of need, that can understand when you get home what you're talking about. Opportunities for frequent attraction and close contact. Well, obviously, you're going to be with them a lot if you work in the same building. You'll see them a lot, so you won't be apart. Research has suggested that working closely with one another individual that you perceive to be capable and talented increases affinity. So it also increases teamwork, communication flow, and job satisfaction. The negative sides, which is the next question, the negative sides is it can be a distraction. That other person, you want to be with them all the time. You see them, you want to talk to them, you want to hang out with them. You'd rather hang out with them more than actually doing your work. Attention from others can make it uncomfortable for each other. So say if I was talking to another male and the person that I was working with saw that, they might get upset about that. Issues with the relationship or can greatly strain the work environment. Everybody probably wants to know, oh, y'all are dating, what's going on? So everybody probably wants to know your business. And obviously when you fight or you have problems, people want to know that too. So obviously it can have rumors if you're not professional about it, and you can start drama that way. If the relationship ends, then people could have revenge in the workplace, which means they could use your personal stories, pictures, aspects against you, which some of that is illegal, but people do it, and they can cross the line and be inappropriate. So provide detailed feedback. The employees should handle workplace romance. Unfortunately, I tried to get this article up many times, and I could not. It kept erroring on me, so I'm sorry I did not get number 3. Reflect on workplace romance article. Is there a policy in the place of your organization? I think having a policy in the organization is very important. It also goes back to ethics. And values within the organization. I think everybody should follow the guidelines. But yes, my organization does have an employee handbook, and it is stated that if there is a romance within the organization, that you have to act professionally. You cannot visually be contact with that person. So they tried to make it as professional as you can, including secrets about what you're doing within your work. So you can get into a lot of trouble if you do not handle relationships correctly within the workplace, according to my workplace where I work. After reviewing the chapter, consider your experiences, which is chapter 11, organizational teams. So consider the experiences in groups, what worked. So let's see. What worked? Well, being understanding. So when somebody's presenting their information to other people, you have to be understanding with what they're saying. So I think being understanding is important. Listening to others. Obviously, in the past video, we if you don't communicate correctly, that can cause problems. So if you don't listen correctly, you can hear one thing and somebody can hear the other. Being respectful. Obviously, if you're on your phone and you're answering emails while somebody else is talking, if you talk behind somebody's back, that's being disrespectful within the workplace. And so putting your effort in is very important. I've had many people that have worked on a project with me and had not put any effort into it. So that is very frustrating when you're in a group. And not crossing the line. I think that talking poorly about others, and there's so many ways you can cross the line. So what has not worked? Well, I've seen people in the book also being bossy, if just placing orders and not doing your part, not communicating well. If you think that just saying one thing and then meaning another, that can also be an issue. Also, if you talk disrespectfully to somebody, if you talk down to somebody, if you aren't willing to do your job or talk to people correctly. These are all problems that you can have within the group. So how do you think the millennial generation feels about the concept of servant leadership? So I actually found servant leadership within feminism, which I don't know if that's correct, but that was in chapter 12. So leadership as a servant means doing things for others that enable them to do their jobs. Serving means taking obstacles out of employees' way rather than putting them up. So I read the article on the millennials, and it says that there are about 75% of the global workplace is millennials. And millennials believe that transparency, which means they want to create a more honest and open culture. And they want to know that the work they are doing impacts others. They like to do work in teams. They think working at home is a norm. They recruit based on results than degrees. And I think that millennials will like a leadership, servant leadership, because I feel like they are helping others. They're doing good for the society. They're not having that, well, you don't have a degree, you can't be a part of this company. Well, I'm getting my degree, and obviously my company has allowed me to be in the position that I am. And so it's been very fortunate, I think, and I'm a millennial, and I agree with all of this. So number 7, explain what is meant in the quotation leaders are born rather than made. I think that everybody's skills are inside of them. I think that everybody knows kind of what they're going to do. It takes a little time, but everybody has their own personality and their own ethics within them and values within them. So I think that those are instilled in us as a child, and I think that if you go against those things, that people aren't want to, or you force somebody to do that, they're not going to want to do it. Leaders are that also means leaders and followers. So followers, you'll see as children. There's been so many. There's been so many. Anyways, they've seen in children that as a young age, you'll see who's kind of a leader and who's a follower. So I think it is instilled in us as a child. So number 8, why do followers put up with bad leaders? I think that followers are scared. They just feel like the norm of what they're doing is normal, and that it's just another day. They're just going to go on. That's their leader. That's who they're going to stand by. The person is doing right, what they believe, and that leader is doing right, so they're going to follow that. Kind of like following the pack. So if there's going to be a wolf there to protect them, they're going to be right there with the pack. Number 9, how does feminist perspective of leadership differ from masculine perspective? Well, this is in chapter 12, and let's see. Executive leadership development serves as a theoretical transition point that begins to turn around feminist perspective on leadership. Executive leadership development entails ongoing socialization process that begin in childhood and continue throughout the organizational socialization and a stimulation process. Researchers argue that factors such as family culture and social factors influence the development of leadership capacity. They also argue that men and women are socialized from early childhood to engage in distinctively different communication styles. And these differences may lead to two different leadership qualities, so obviously masculine and feminine. So several forms of feminism include radical feminism, focus on positive value of those qualities normally associated with female leaders, sensitivity, nurturing, and expressing emotions. Masculized in an organization rather are highlighted, welcomed, and replaced in traditional male perspective. Okay, so let's see. So obviously, in my opinion, I think you kind of have to have both masculine and feminine in a workplace. Masculine, I think way back in the 50s was very prominent. Obviously, because women didn't work, and men. It was a different time back then. When my grandpa, when he was talking about the way they worked, I mean, they went to their lunch hour and drank. I mean, those were different times back then, and the way they treated women, they downgraded them, and I think that females allowing them to come into the workplace has changed the workplace because it's softened it, I think, and gave it more ethics and more values because you gave it strength and humbleness and I think and also obviously nurturing, so it wasn't as harsh as masculinity was, in my opinion. So which do you more fully subscribe to and why? I'd probably be feminist because I mean, just like Emma Watson, she wasn't saying that full on, oh, man against woman. No, that's not what I'm saying either. I'm just saying that I am sensitive, and I think, and I do know that there's a time and a place to be harsh. Obviously, I do it within my job, but there's a time where, I mean, you don't have to be harsh all the time, and you don't have to be a snake all the time. And I feel like that kind of goes around. So, anyways, discuss whether you would change which organizations you support dependent. So, on a level, so I was reading corporate social responsibility, and that can be defined as a balanced approach for organizations to address economic, social, and environmental issues in a way that aims to benefit people, communities, and society. So one fact that was interesting is Nike. They donated $2 million to the American Fair Labor Association to settle sweatshops allegations out of court. So there's a lot of change that needs to be made within the workforce to make it better. That surprised me that they had a problem with sweatshops. I know that children work in poor conditions, and children, not adults. So that kind of changed my aspect of, the corporate scandals and public relations nightmares that, even from when I was reading about Enron was horrible. I mean, people lost a lot of things. So I just think that there still needs to be a lot of ethical things, and corporate social responsibility is also used by many employees as a measure of not only the organization that they are employed by, but also the leaders for whom they work for. So it's combined with a belief that the company cares about their employees and increase the employee morale, job satisfaction, and overall commitment to not only the organization but also to the larger industry in which the individual works. So I completely agree with this. And so this is my video 4, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.